Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. Solly here. Got a fun one for you today. We have recorded an episode called Improving the Product. We're going to detail exactly what that means as we get into the discussion. I want to give a shout out to, of course, our friends at Roback Activewear. You all know Roback, best fit, best feel. Roback's Azalea collection is back and better than ever. The designs are next level. The products are amazing. As always, it is safe to say we are just fired up for all these really big events in golf that go on in the spring after seeing this collection. No idea what they're referring to there, but the performance polos are moisture wicking. They've got great stretch. The collar is crisp. It does not lose its shape. They fit way better than those old boxy polos. Simply put, the best designs paired with the best feeling polos. You all know they have the best performance hoodies too. The favorite hoodie of No Laying Up. There's no doubt about that. The fabric is so soft. I'm wearing, I think, the very original one that they sent us, which is what got me hooked on Roback from the very beginning. Finally, they just released their looper shorts. They're made with belt loops so they can be worn both on and off the course. They're incredibly comfortable. Signature free stride fabric ensures the shorts are easy to move in and keep up with every swing. So if you haven't already, time to load up on some Roback for yourself and for others. Code NLU at roback.com. Get you a generous 20% off your first order through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com, 20% off bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with code NLU. Spring golf is not the same without Roback. Onto the pod. Solly here. Got a round table day. I'm going to go around the horn, introduce everyone, and our final panelist here is going to introduce today's topic. TC is here. Hello, Mr. TC.
Hey, Solly. How are you?
I am busy. This is podcast number 3 of the day for me, and God, you don't think I've learned having kids? I used to be way more productive between the hours of 8 and 9 a.m. and 5 and 7 p.m. because I don't have those hours anymore. And trying to fit everything between 9 and 5 now is it's stressing me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie right now. But
You got
KVV
a new
is here.
stakeholder.
That's exactly right. We're going to get into some of that, I think. But Kevin Van Valkenburg is here. He's going to be playing a little bit of the host and question asking chair here today. Hello, Kevin.
Solly, it's great to see you. Great to be back. I want to say we're all kind of in the different stages of the kid journey, right? Like you've just had a newborn. TC's got the younger kids. I've got the older kids. Who knows what's up for our fourth guest at some point down the road. But DJ Pie is also here. It's excited to join the roundtable with you as always, Teach.
Gentlemen, good to be gathered around. Thank you for having me on your program, Solly, as always. Thrilled to be here. We're gonna talk a little product today. A little capital P product, the product.
Our product each?
Yeah, what product? Whose product?
Products in my hair.
Who's buying
What is the product?
Who's selling the product? What is the product? Can you trade the product? Can I invest in the product? We're going to talk about a lot of different things. And Kev, I think this kind of hit you and I at the same time a couple of weeks ago, and where this idea kind of started from. At least for me, I remember sitting in the press center at Pebble Beach when we were out there for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, listening to Colin Morikawa giving his press conference. And I just remember him kind of hammering on, the number one priorities. We got to improve the product. We got to improve the product. And then you start listening for that word and you hear other players talk about it. You've heard Max talk about it. You've heard Rory talk about it. You've heard Scotty Scheffler talk about it. You've heard Spieth talk about it. You've heard JT talk about it. You've certainly heard Commissioner Monahan talk about it. You've heard investors talk about it. What I took away from that is like, okay, there's a lot to unpack on like what all these people are talking about, because I think they might all be talking about different things. And I think what they're talking about as the product is very different than like what I would see as the product, which is even very different than what TC would view as the product, I would think. And so what I kind of sat down to write was like, okay, what is the product and how do we improve it? How do we literally do what these people are saying? And Kev, as you and me and Tron and Solly were all kind of like kicking it around, going through notes, we're like, God, this is like way more complicated. If we were going to try to spell this out, it would be, an hour and a half, like the length of an hour and a half podcast. So we might as well just do an hour and a half podcast about it, which is how we got here. TC, anything to add on that?
No, I might start calling you DJ Product.
Please.
Really? I mean,
just the product. DJ the product Fiaski.
JT's talked about the product a lot, which seems to just mean purse.
Or at least it did back in the day, and even maybe that has changed, which I think is interesting in itself, right? But
From what I've heard, the Live product is perfect. They don't need to make any changes. Everything is awesome. You're just not into the product because you're, part of the crooked media.
It's possible. I just
Uh,
don't think I have a lot of need for the product. Like, there's a
yeah,
lot of products that I see in the store that I'm like, yeah, it's probably very functional for somebody. I
There's
don't
all
need to
sorts of
buy that.
products I see in the store that don't apply to me as far as, conditioner product, hair product, that sort
well,
of thing.
guys, before we drown in buzzwords here, part of the reason I wanted to do this is because I think we're pretty good about pointing out the flaws and stuff. We've been, this TV coverage stinks, this format stinks, this setup stinks, or whatever.
KVV, many people could say that that's our product.
That is our product. Yes, bitching about other people's product, but
And we
so-
don't. It's not. We don't improve it when we do bitch about that part.
And I think that from some people that can be a little bit like of a downer, a little bit negative. So I want to talk today about how could we fix things? What is the way to go about making golf better in some ways? But TC, I want to turn it over to you first because I think you have a pretty good grasp of how convoluted it is to even talk about the product. Like when we say this, when we look at the idea of PGA Tour enterprises, what the hell do we even mean? And what should it be going forward as we try to figure out ways to, stop bleeding fans and start bringing them in so that this actually is worth watching or that we have a professional golf product going forward?
First of all, if you're listening to this too, go to our YouTube and you can.
New
We're
products.
trying to improve our product. We're putting
That
all of our
that
no
joke
laying up
TC was
podcasts.
that joke TC was making earlier, that was a hair joke. You couldn't see it if you're not watching the video podcast.
Exactly.
TC is referring to the No Laying Up podcast channel, which is new and separate from our No Laying Up YouTube channel, which a lot of people have been asking for, where you can find all of our podcasts now going up on there. So,
Yeah, but I think we need to talk about, hey, who are the stakeholders? Its product is different for different stakeholders, and even within those stakeholders, there's certain, so you've got. All right, we'll start with sponsors, right? The sponsorship product is different things to different sponsors, right? You've got a variety of sponsors that, say John Deere or American Express or I'm sure Cognizant that view this much more as, well, I'm sponsoring a PGA Tour event to for corporate hospitality to bring my best clients and accounts out to get them in person. Their biggest golf fans. Hey, this is something that we can, I'm sure BMW does it with their dealers or, um,
Surf Pro does it
Coca-Cola.
with,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like Coca-Cola brings in their biggest, accounts to Eastlake. And so that for a long time has been the kind of bread and butter of the tour. That's, hey, we've got a pro-am, you I think the icing on the cake is you get these ad spots, these media buys as well that are included in with this. And the tours packaged those up and given those to CBS or NBC or Golf Channel and said, hey, we've already done 75% of the hard work for you as well, where these ad buys are already spoken for. We are giving you, you don't have to go and sell a lot of this inventory. And so I think right now too, it seems like the tour doesn't even know what their product is from a sponsorship perspective, because in order to achieve these, those 8, 10, $12 million sponsorship deals to sponsor a tournament make a lot of sense if you're corporate hospitality focused. When you're getting up to 20, 25, $30 million, as you're seeing Wells Fargo drop out of that, or Farmers, or, and trying to position this product more as this is a media rights buy. This is an impressions product. This is a worldwide, a global broadcast and advertising product. It starts to make a lot less sense, I think. And so from a
Especially
priorities,
TC as viewership is like plummeting,
exactly. And
especially
it's-
as you lose a bunch of those impressions.
yeah.
Especially if all of the buzz is negative around this
Right.
so-called one of these aspects of the product that we're talking about.
Especially when you don't even own the 5 biggest products in golf, which are the 4 majors and the Ryder Cup, right? And so we'll talk about it on the back end here. Like, all right, what do they own? They own the President's Cup. President's Cup product kind of stinks, right? They have, if we want to talk about that as a product, cool. How do you improve that? Venues and who's playing in it and what the format is and all that stuff. But I think, so starting from the tour's perspective, hey, what's the tour's mandate, or what's been the tour's mandate? Get as many as many tournaments on the schedule as possible, as big of fields as possible, and create the most amount um,
Can I read
playing
you the
Yeah, I was
mission?
opportunities.
gonna say,
Y-
I
Yeah,
was so I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you, what is the competitive element of the product, or what has it been for a long time? Because I think
Well,
that's where you can help us here.
I'm looking at this. This is from guidestar.org. This is the mission statement allegedly of the PGA Tour, which is on the about section of the PGA Tour. It says, by showcasing golf's greatest players, we engage, inspire, and positively impact our fans, partners, and communities worldwide. But the extended mission statement is the PGA Tour Inc.'s principal mission is to promote the sport of professional golf through sanctioning and administering golf tournaments and promoting the common interests of touring golf professionals. That part's important, I think. This is accomplished by providing competitive earnings opportunities for past, current, and future members of the PGA Tour, Champions Tour, and Web.com Tour, formerly known as the Nationwide Tour, so this might be dated, protecting the integrity of the game and helping grow the reach of the game in the U.S. and around the world.
Yeah, I think said another way, it like the goal of the PGA Tour is to make money for its members, which
Correct.
through the game of like through the product of competitive golf. And
And
so,
and then there's downstream effects that benefit communities,
yes,
fans, the game of golf, all that. But that stuff's secondary to providing
and
playing opportunities.
anecdotal example here, but I think this is light bulb going off for me. And like if you haven't run your own company or kind of come up with mission statements or what your goals actually are, your core values, if you haven't gone through that exercise of examining those words and picking them out, that's something we have done on an annual basis, and it informs so much of how we make decisions. And our mission statement is don't don't hate on me if I get it a little wrong here, guys, but something along the lines of our goal is to inform and entertain avid golfers worldwide, which is we look at every single one of those words. Like, it's not casual golf fans, it's avid ones. It's not in the US, it's worldwide. It's inform and entertain. It can be one of those things. If it doesn't fit into one of those buckets, we probably don't pursue that opportunity, right? If it's a straight up corporate deal that our fans are not going to be interested in, we don't follow that. We don't make that decision that way. So
And it
that's
should be
honestly like
both, ideally,
ideally it's
inform and
both, but like
entertain.
if it does one of them, that kind of is what our goal is, and that again, it makes decision making a lot easier. And I challenge people to view all of golf through this lens of what we just talked about here, of how decisions get made through that lens of like, hey, we're trying to make money for our players, right? And I think that is a major flaw in the product that Rory has talked about recently. We can get into, but kind of how what you're actually setting out to do and what your executives are assigned and mandated to do is going to inform your decision making and has led us to where we are today. And I would think a lot of us are going to agree that it's time to review those goals and missions to make this a better product going forward.
That said, I think there's different, with even if the core mission of the organization is to make as much money as possible for the players, it seems like they're going through these short-sighted circles or cycles of, hey, let's just redline the engine,
Yeah.
max this out in the short term, and we'll figure out the long term. And I think the future players in that mission statement, hey, for past, present, and future, touring professionals, I think the future ones are the ones that are gonna at some point this bubble is gonna burst a little bit. And if you don't have, like you said, Solly, if viewership numbers start going down, those corporate sponsorships go down. Those TV ratings plummet. The broadcast rights deal gets smaller. The purses get smaller. All of that, and so I think it's some of it is, hey, on what timeline are you viewing this product as well? Because it seems like it's been a series of 3 to 5 year decisions that have just been band-aids, 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 and we've gotten all these small compromises. And I think the thing that's going to benefit players most in the long run is going towards making it more fan centric and making the boat bigger.
So, Deej, you used to work for the product here, and I kind of want to ask you, like, how did and when did we lose the plot a little bit? Like, where did things just start getting bolted on top of each other? And if you're not familiar as like a reader or listener, as a fan, what is the PGA Tour now that it wasn't, in 1965, back when it sort of began?
yeah, trying to like distill this down as much as I can. I don't know how rambling this is going to be, but I think what's really interesting about where the PGA Tour sits now is the balance between like committed long-term partnerships and needing to be flexible and change with like massive outside actors.
Mhm.
And I think that's on one hand, that's like a slow evolution that you alluded to. So like in 1964, the PJ Tour becomes this breakaway of touring professionals, and we're going to set up this kind of entertainment product, charity product, 501c6 organization that's kind of the genius model that's going to work super, super, super well. I would say all the way through, I don't know, 2010, honestly, like just really, really, really solid model that is kind of split between like immense TV rights, a core group of fans that love watching golf on Sunday afternoons, and an awesome on-site experience that feels very right-sized. The purses make sense, all of those things. And also on the tail end of that up until 2010's arbitrary, but I think like catching that Tiger bubble was kind of almost like the gravy days of like, all right, sweet. We don't have to change anything. The money's going up like crazy, and like we're just going to kind of ride this forever.
Tiger
And
was the product, right?
right,
Yeah.
and that's where it becomes really easy is like, how do you fuck that up? Like, you just show that guy on Sunday afternoons. Like, it doesn't matter what he's doing. It's, you know, a pretty easy way to go about things. And now what I alluded to at the beginning about like long-term commitments is like the reason the PJ Tour is such a rock solid bet for a lot of these companies is not only like the charity reasons, not only the TV reasons that you mentioned, Tron, about like having pre-sold inventory and kind of the whole machine just like running itself, but the tour also has like all these long-term deals with title sponsors that like keep that thing as just like it's almost like a stable like index fund, right? Where it's like, you know, that you're going to have this tournament's locked up for 10 years, this tournament's locked up for 8 years, this deal is locked up for 7 years, yada yada yada, and the whole
And
thing
live
just
sports are the only
right.
thing that anybody watches anymore, you know,
Mhm.
as far as like if you wanna get a message out in a constrained amount of time, like if you're a car company and you have a summer sales event, cool, golf's a perfect thing to do that on, right?
Right. I think what's important to note before we move on is like the double-edged sword of that is like that stability is what causes like the stability. Like that's what is the biggest massive positive for the PJ Tour, but it's also what makes it so freaking hard to change things. Is like it's so easy to say they should have blown it up. They should have, you know, as we enter this kind of transition period, and this is not even like mentioning Live and the PIF and all of that. Even before all of that, it was slowly kind of chipping away at becoming what you're saying earlier, Tron, on like, hey, this is going from an on-site corporate hospitality product to a big ass get as many eyeballs as you can product. And that there's some growing pains in there between the stability of what I mentioned and also needing to like reinvent what you're doing. So on one hand, it's like, yes, since 1964, it makes a ton of sense to have 200 members. We have all these different interested parties. They all kind of settle out to this thing that like makes our product make a lot of sense. And once you start pivoting towards like, no, 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 this is like an entertainment product that's meant to compete with football and baseball and basketball and hockey and soccer and all these other things, it becomes so much harder to change that membership if you have all of these locked up stakeholders.
All I was gonna say was when it comes to sponsors is like golf has lived in this sweet spot of this was a shocker to me back when I used to audit companies of like you can have companies where 55 if you find a $50 million error, it's not big enough to like call it a misstatement. Like that's how big these income statements and balance sheets are. Seriously. So like golf has lived in this area. Like $10 million sounds like a massive amount of money to all of us sitting here, but like for a lot of these companies, it is pennies, like truly pennies to be able to entertain and host clients and all this stuff. The famous KPMG story of I think it was Bearing Point, maybe back in the day, whatever. That it took one phone call from Phil Mickelson, and he made they kept some client for like $80 million, and whatever they're paying Phil Mickelson was worth it. And like there's value in what these companies get out of sponsoring these tournaments in that price range that is easily justifiable, doesn't get heavily scrutinized, and golf has been able to thrive on that and pay its players well and build this kind of ecosystem on this thing. $10 million ask is different than a $25 million ask, and that's one of the many things that has changed over recent years.
Not to mention all the charitable stuff that
Yeah.
comes out of it too, of hey, you get this write-off or you get this deduction or whatever. I think also just something that's maybe changing a little bit, or maybe it stays the same, is the relationships that CEOs have with with players and with the tour of Tim Fincham and Charles Schwab are friends. Like that's why they signed up for what I view as like a dog shit deal with the Champions Tour or the Senior Tour or whatever we're calling it, you know, and there's a, you know, or web.com, they were based here in Jacksonville and that, you know, the now the Corn Ferry Tour, it's like they signed on for that because it was getting them into kind of these smaller middle markets, but it was something that bigger that was like, you know, kind of, you know, cheaper than say sponsoring the NBA and you're getting this many eyeballs across the season and all of that. So there's, you know, you got to wonder a little bit of like, all right, the tour's done a pretty poor job of involving Silicon Valley. And like, there's no, you know, I guess they've got the AWS official marketing partner, like all the OMPs, right? Of, I mean, Deej, you can speak to this from the tour. Like they have what, like they have an official decking partner of, you know,
Official PDF is what
Yeah,
gets me.
PDF, they
That's
go-
my
that's
favorite.
always the
The
worst.
Adobe one. That's my favorite.
I always go back to TC on that regard. I don't remember if it was Humana or one of those companies that like used to sponsor a tournament. And I remember asking one time, and I don't even think was a PJ Tour thing. I think this was like a media member or something. I was like, oh, I wonder why Humana is like dropping out of sponsoring this. And they're like, oh yeah, they got a new CEO. He's into sailing, so now they're just doing sailing stuff. I was like,
they're doing
wait,
America's Cup now.
that's the business, is like it's just whatever these like CEOs want to do. And I was like, man, that's a weird place to be. But also, if you get it, you get the right momentum. You know, I mean, like every executive kind of seems to be into golf right now. So like it there is a lot of money to be spent, which is how you kind of end up with, I think, all these people in these players' ears on like your value is so much huger than what you're getting right now, but not only for you 20 guys, not for you 180 guys. And then that's where you get the friction of like, we need to
And
redo this thing. And
And you're sitting on $20 billion of NFTs
course.
that could be just given out at any time.
Yeah.
that's another product, KVV. I think from that standpoint too, it's also like the PGA Tour needs to be looked at as like they're bundling all this
Sure.
kind of unlike, you know, shit together. That's like, all right, we've got the John Deere Classic and the Barracuda Championship and stuff over here that's, you know, some tournaments are being run by IMG, some are being run by Wasserman, some are being run by, you know, CAA. And then you've got on the other side, you've got the championship management events. And it's like all these things are very differently run and there's not a lot of consistency or standards between them. And so there's that too. It's like, all right, if each individual tournament is its own product, you know, your brand standards better be pretty freaking good. You know,
Well,
and
TC,
from yeah. So
part of the
sorry.
reason that I wanted to sort of talk about product first in this is because a few years ago when my kids kind of figured out that I was into golf and they were like, oh, what can we get dad for Christmas present? They showed up and they gave me a pair of PGA Tour socks for my one of my stocking presents.
Were
And
they
I
the
kind of
live under
laughed.
par ones or were
They were not live under par. They just said like PGA Tour. They must have been walking through like an airport or whatever and seen a PGA Superstore. And it made me realize, like, as we've been talking about this stuff over the last year or so, that we're trying to basically like figure out how to improve a business that makes socks or puts their name on socks, that
licenses
has
socks?
restaurants, that has courses that they run, that I can buy equipment and shoes and clothing from in the PGA Tour Superstores, that I can place wagers on in the PGA Tour Bet. What else am I forgetting here? Because I know that there are other elements and tentacles in this. It's very difficult to sort of distill down when you're talking about what exactly the product is, how many different things it encompasses, from socks to $20 million, in charity and stuff. And so I think that's probably when people get frustrated. Why is this taking so long? It's because, well, there's like a million moving parts here about how we figure out all this stuff.
Well, and I think what's so interesting about that is, and this is a point that I think hit me, I don't know how many years ago, but like when like telecast complaints really ramped up, is like all that stuff, KBV, like makes sense to me truly all the way down to the socks. Like you can convince me any of those businesses is like a good idea. Golf course properties is another one with the whole TPC network. You can convince me all that is like a great idea if the telecast is banging, and if like what's the actual like I'm not even using this word as a meme now, but like the actual product, what I think of as the product, which is Sunday afternoon back nine, what does it look like? If that is like can't miss, like nothing to be improved on there, then all that other stuff makes sense to me. But once that starts to crumble and once that starts to become like, dude, this is not, I fucking love golf. I can't tell you guys how much I love golf. Like, there's some weeks I hate watching it. I always like watching Sunday afternoon down the stretch, but like, you can't convince me to watch Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Yep.
many weeks. And it's like, man, that seems like an issue. And
Yes.
that's where I think my brain starts like unspooling, is just like, dude, if you lost me on like being such a hardcore fan of that type of, like, again, product stuff, it's like, why does any of this other shit make sense? Because that just makes it even harder to like turn the aircraft carrier around. And so now is probably the point where we say like all of that's going on in, call it 2017, 2018, and we're getting on the blower every week to complain about the commercial load and, you know, this, who the hell is Chris Stroud, and all of these like complaints. No offense to you, Solly. I think now, out of, you know, off the top rope, down from the rafters like Sting, here comes like the Piff and Liv, and just like, we kind of see what's going on from a, you can't really change your product perspective. You are like wide open to disruption. So now we're going to come in with literally billions of dollars and just kick the hornet's nest, and kind of, it's kind of a cow tipping situation. We're just going to tip you over, and I don't think you're going to be able to like get back up real fast.
Well, it's tough too, because you got the TV product, you got 3 different networks, you know, or 3 different channels advertise, or carrying your stuff, producing it their own way.
Sometimes streaming, sometimes broadcast, sometimes on the app.
Yeah, the cock, ESPN, ESPN Plus, all that stuff. Then you've got the online product. The website was like virtually unusable, and all these stats, the statistical product was,
TC.
and then listen, the app was bad. I think that's why the sole reason that, Liv, that was like the canary in the coal mine, was that the app
I
is
saw
so
the
bad.
app. They just
It's the media that's spending their lifetime and their career covering you, like, openly despises and has disdain for you. It's tough.
If you don't remember this happening, it was pretty much around the same time that Charlie Hoffman's ball rolled into the water at Waste Management, and he was like, see, like, this is why guys are going to live to the PGA Tour. Around that same time, TC was also saying the app is why guys are going to live.
It signifies.
That was a precursor to this pod. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. But I think where the final, I guess, point on this topic I would have is, and where I probably would give them, maybe I'm a homer, but I would give them more credit than maybe you would, TC, is like the idea of like fixing all that stuff in real time while you have all those contracts, while members are making more money than they ever have. Like, it would have required basically like ripping the emergency brake while things were going great, stopping, pissing everybody off, rebuilding the product from the ground up to get to a point where like we're probably eventually going to get to, 3 years.
Yeah, you need a disruptor. You need a challenge. You need something to challenge the status quo. But at the same time, I think that's why I get so frustrated with what were they doing from you want to talk about a complacent organization with no plan or roadmap, or it's like, hey man, like, life is good. We got 1,000 employees at our headquarters. Like, think about like working there. I mean, Deej, you worked there, and like the HQ was like a series of like strip mall office buildings for a while.
But they changed it, they invested in that possibly at the wrong time, with Liv coming right down the pike right afterwards. Probably would love to have that $70 million. But
from I don't know. I just struggle with, like, at some point, like, if you're not, you're high on the hog. Monahan shows up end of 2016 into the beginning of 2017.
Yeah.
And
shows up as commissioner. He was there for a long time.
Yeah, and doesn't really, like, I think we were expecting more. Hey, you know what? All right, we got a fresh set of eyes on this. Fincham's kind of, sacred cows. Maybe, we'll maybe freshen some of these things up, or change the strategy here. And I think for that 3 or 4 years, or that 3 years pre-COVID, we didn't really see a whole lot of movement, or emphasis on, hey, let's better define what our product is, or let's look here. Because I think the other thing too is, like, at the end of the day, like, if we're defining a product that matters, like, I think that's what we're trying to do here, is like, hey, what's the product? all right, it's all these different products, then cool. How do you prioritize those things? What's at the top of the food chain? And I think at the top of the food chain it is making the golf as like the actual golf, the competition as impactful, engaging, competitive as possible. And then everything else flows off of that. Right. And that, and so what goes into that product? That's schedule, that's venues, that's formats, that's making sure you have the right players eligible for the right stuff. That's size of fields. That's agronomy and setup. That's, like all that stuff ladders up, right? All those details. So I think that's what, a lot of our solutions in probably the last third of this podcast will deal with that.
All right. So I think we've done a good job of establishing what the stakes are, what we're dealing with here. Hopefully, if you came into this being like, I want change, man, like you're still with us, you're still hanging in. This is the beginning part of the essay, the lecture. But I want us to pivot now, and I want us to embody the voice of the fan. All right. We're going to take our like fanalist hats off. We're going to be less, sort of like, well, that can't happen necessarily because of this. What are the fans wanting here? So I want to start with you because I want to ask, broadly speaking, how many of the players, let's say, I don't want to talk about sports washing. If you are interested in our views about that, you can literally check out about 100 podcasts for the last 2 years. You can email me and I'll send you my bullet points that I have or whatever, but I'm going to sort of put that aside. Solly, everybody seems to want the top players back together again. From a fan's perspective, how many of them should play against each other? What would be the ideal scenario that would then make the product more interesting?
That's an interesting question. It's a complicated question. I'm not 100% confident I know the answer to that, other than to say we've kind of flirted with, danced with this idea of a signature, elevated, designated event, whatever they are, that are in theory different than regular PGA Tour events, but in reality and in presentation and entertainment value, they're remarkably similar just because of how they've treated it. DJ's long, said, we've got 2 tours here. Why are we pretending like we don't? I think in terms of product, if you ask me, the best way to do this would be some sort of the way that Formula One does it, where it is like the PGA Tour or whatever this is going to be called. Like, I don't know what this new competitive structure is going to be. I don't know whether that's going to happen, but if there was a golf product, league, tour, whatever you'd want to call it, that had this many events, I don't know what that number is. I would say somewhere between 15 and 20 events, adding in the majors. So maybe 14 tour events or whatever that is.
Let's say 20 events.
Sure. 20 events, which counts majors, counts playoffs, whatever it is. And like that is, maybe let's just come up with a new name for it. I don't know what it would be, but that's the golf league. Let's just call it that. TGL.
TGL.
Yeah.
Damn it.
L Golf League.
The Super Golf League. Yeah.
Super Golf League. Sure.
It's gonna be played with no roof. We're having an open stadium.
Like the model has been
another product, dude.
Yeah.
We didn't talk
Exactly.
about TGL.
They've proven, the PGA Tour has proven you can put a field together full of mostly guys that people aren't going to pick out of a lineup. You can have the RSM and you can give out $8 million or whatever that purse is, and people will still sign up to pay for it. And this many people will watch it. And like these golf events have a place to play, right? But it is not the same as playing at Pebble Beach this past year or playing the Players Championship. So like let there be a second tour. And I don't know if you need to call it the Corn Ferry Tour, but like there's a Super Golf League and then there's the PGA Tour, right? And the points for the RSM will not be, they will not count towards the golf championship race. You can have all kinds of membership and eligibility platforms, but we're talking about having something that's on top of this tour thing that, again, all these little miniature corporate hospitality, this is your local event, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to get. I think that still sells at around $7 to $10 million, whatever that is, underneath this league. And then you have, hey, if you're going to pay $25 million, it's going to be this product. Live From is going to be there. All the best players in the world are going to play on this in this event. Call it a merger, call it the tours come back together. I don't really care anymore. It doesn't matter. Live guys made all their money. I'm guessing the PGA Tour guys are going to have equity in this as it's going to live under PGA Tour Enterprises. But these 14 events, plus the majors and all that, adds up to 20. Say these 14 are going to have Bryson again. They're going to have DJ. They're going to have whatever. And these guys are going to compete for this title. Like that is what I think the best way of doing this. And it's hard to picture that because we know PGA Tour and we know Live and we know Corn Ferry Tour, but I think moving some entities around within that and coming up with this top of the funnel thing that is the competitive golf thing, with the number one thing being, how do we make this the most buzzy and the most interesting thing for golf fans, for sports fans, or just people in general to be interested in? Have to start from that and figure out the rest from there. Deej?
That's where I think it gets hard. Is I don't think there's like some magic panacea to turn casual sports fans into golf fans. And that's where a hill I would die on is like, unless you dramatically reinvent the product, I don't think, like tennis is the best comp with golf, right? I watch Wimbledon. I don't really have a lot of other time in my
You're not
waking.
watching the ATP 1000 in
Uh,
Miami this week.
I'm not.
right?
I'm not. Let me know what happens. And that's where I think the biggest like paradox in this whole thing is like the golfers thinking that they're worth this much and the audience having this much time outside of like the core. And that's what I think the PGA Tour has, again, biggest strength and weakness at the same time, is it has an unbelievable core of golf fans who will watch a bunch of no names play events that they've watched every year forever. My dad loves watching golf on Sunday afternoon, doesn't even really care what tournament it is, right? Like that's like a massive strength and a core that you can like build around. But I don't know how you add more people to that core without like making them go through the 101, 201, 301, 401 how to be a golf fan class, which is I think where the live stuff comes from. I think that's where a lot of it is like, no, we're going to shortcut this thing. We're going to put music. They're going to be wearing shorts. Check this shit out. They're going to have range finders. It's going to be awesome. And like, nobody fucking cares. Like, that's not, unless you're there on site. Like I do, there's people that will ride hard for the live in-person experience as something that is way more fun than going to a PGA Tour event, something I would never quibble with. I've never been to a live event. People like what they like. That's great. But from a TV product standpoint, like it's pretty much the same thing. And if it was like wildly different, people would be flocking to it. But like they don't care because there's already like a better version of what Live is doing that people already don't care about. So like why would I watch like a worse version of something I already don't give a shit about? The comp to that, or the like last part of that, is like, if you are going to bring in those casual fans, it's just natural that that's going to start with like the Ryder Cup, the majors,
Yeah.
like those types of like the Wimbledon events where it's like, no, I can wrap my head around like, this is all that matters. You're telling me all that matters is like these majors, then I'll probably start there. Unless unless they're playing some greater Milwaukee Open tennis tournament that I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I'll go check that out. Sounds great. But like, it's the idea that like, we're just going to flip some switch and turn people into like, we're just going to have 10x the amount of golf fans to match up what these chodes think they should make is like so stupid to me. That's the part that makes no sense.
Have you considered capes though, about how much
Right.
capes can make it?
I think.
All right.
Do you guys agree with that or no?
Not
Yes.
quite.
Got a lot to say.
Not quite, because I think there's a few things that putting Live aside that the PGA Tour has going for them in a positive way. Like I think if we've seen, all right, they've lost a bunch of good players. Not everyone's gravitating over to Live to watch John Rahm though. Like there's people that stick around and the ratings are down, but people are sticking with
Except
watching
for caffeine TV.
PGA Tour golf, of course.
Thank you, TC.
The Corn Cob TV.
The ratings are down 20%, 30%, whatever they are. But like even in a bad situation, over 1 million people are sitting and watching PGA Tour events. Why is that? Being on network TV, having a steady place to watch it. Like human behavior is, this is probably an active listenership that we have right now, but a lot of people just want to watch golf on CBS or golf on NBC. That's
the core I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That is a core. That's a core to build around, right? So you have that. You have still a sport that people are going to actively play, like, and is continuing to grow post-COVID. Like there is a link between golf that people play and the professional game. But I think there's still plenty of people that play it that can't stand to watch it on television. And just like, again, if you improve the experience of watching it on television, improve the intrigue around it, it can become a lot more interesting to watch. Like it can be something that people gravitate towards. And the third thing I'd say there too is like the full swing impact, like the Netflix impact, like that is a big reason that like that impact and changes made in the structure of how their product was presented had Formula One have a massive boost. Now, Formula One's run into a problem since then of their competitive product has taken a massive hit with Verstappen's dominance. And I would imagine their ratings are down off their peak. I haven't been watching it as much because I'm not as interested in the competitive product. All that's to say, like, if you make tangible improvements in the competitive product from technology, from course setup, from agronomy, all that, plus an entertain, like what worked, I think we can all point to TPC Sawgrass last week as we're recording this last week. A good golf course and a really good television product created a really compelling television. It had a lot of people watching it. It was down from last year, but like way more people watched that than watched Waste Management, right? Like it kind of shows that if you take care of some of these boxes, there's a huge group of people to pull from, and you have a funnel of like casual fans like getting caught up on your sport that like when they do turn it on aren't immediately going to get turned off if you deliver on
Yeah.
meeting the competitive excitement of those things, right? So it all kind of works together to say like it can improve. I really strongly do believe it can improve. There is interest there. Hundreds of thousands of people listening to our podcast every week when the majors are 8 months away. Like there is interest outside of the biggest events in professional golf. It should be more people watching these things. There should be more buzz about it. It should be more water cooler talk. But again, it just is such an unwatchable product for the most of the time that it just kind of ruins it. I don't know.
I'd
All right.
love the I'd love
TC,
the ball to
well,
okay.
I'm just gonna pass you the ball now. What react to that, respond to that, and then I'm gonna
Yeah.
pivot after that. We're gonna talk television.
I think where Max had some really good Max Homa had some really good comments on that kind of core fan thing of like, hey, at some point it's just golf and not everybody's going to be interested in it, and it's not for everybody, and it's not fast paced, and we're not going to turn it into something. And like I think that's a key thing here is like we're trying to make the product better for core fans, because I think if the core demographic is taken care of, then it seems like the PGA Tour is in a much healthier spot. For 10 years there, 15 years there, it seemed like all they did was try to gatekeep stuff and not innovate and all of that. And so I think, I think if we're excited about golf, that rubs off on our audience. If our audience is excited about watching what they watch the players, then they're more likely to tune into the next event. They're more likely to tune in next year, or, you know, have their friends who they play golf with, they talk about on the golf course. You know what? You should really give it another chance. It's good. So all that, totally with you there. I think, Solly, even from like a purse perspective of, let's say I hate to keep using the John Deere Classic, but like the John Deere Classic week before the British Open, and let's say it's an $8 million purse. Even if that sponsorship gets less valuable, like let's say that turns into a $5 million thing instead of an $8 million purse, I still think there's such a value in saying, all right, not all of these things are created equal. All you're doing is pulling your best stuff down
Yes.
a few rungs. Like the whole Tim Fincham era is characterized by, no, we have 50 events a year. We have this wraparound schedule. Everything's created equal. The RSM and the players and the Fortinet out in Napa. And now it's like, all right, they've kind of gotten halfway there where they're like, all right, the fall series is different. This stuff doesn't ladder up to the FedEx Cup season and all of that. And then on top of that, you've got this other thing where it's like, all right, the FedEx Cup thing is underpinning everything. Well, if FedEx were to go away tomorrow, or if Fred Smith's friends with Tim Fincham and Jay Monahan, like if he retires or whatever, like, all right, maybe something else comes in there. But it's one of those things where there's just they've bundled all this shit together, and at some point they just kind of got to unbundle that stuff. And the hope would be that everything that you're like, those 14 to 16 events that you're talking about, Solly, that move internationally, that if you're truly going to do a global thing and leverage the DP World Tour and all of that, and make these showcase events, you do a range walk like Formula One does a grid walk, and you have live from there, and you make it feel all the best players are there, whether that's 60 or 80 or 100 guys or whatever. Then I think those tournaments become so much more valuable for the sponsors that you're really after on that front, where, hey, a 30 or $40 million thing on that's coming out of their global advertising budget. It's not just coming out of their American or North American advertising budget. And, it's like, there's companies out there that won't sponsor golf because it's too regionalized. Right. And so if you feel like, hey, we can start, really hitting golfers all over the world with this, instead of just the PGA Tour is a US based product, I think that changes the calculus, and then that money flows down to the rest of the membership as well.
I think one thing I want to clarify, because I agree with everything that you guys just said, is I don't deny or don't think that like there are more people who are open to watching golf. Like there definitely are, and there are ways to
Yeah,
raise the floor like dramatically. But what I think the devil, like the devil, is in the details, where the ceiling might be the roof. Solly is trying to figure out like the delta between like what's the best case scenario
yeah,
for raising the floor, and what is like the business economics that are required to make that happen. Because right now it seems like the floor is not nearly high enough, and the ceiling or the roof of like how much money it's going to require to make these purses what they need to be, raking these sponsors over the coals, like that's where like that doesn't make sense. So like both sides aren't making sense right now,
totally.
and I think it's a matter of like whether it's possible for them to meet in the middle,
Yeah, I mean, some of it I think is like the players just need to be realistic of like, hey, what's your value?
which is
I
hard
think,
when you have, this is why we always say
yeah,
irrational actor. It's hard when you have like someone with an endless piggy bank telling you like, no, no,
totally.
no, you're actually worth this much.
Yeah.
And then also, you add agents into the equation and all that. So I think there's something there, but I do think there's a like I don't think we're talking about adding 100 million people to
Yeah.
watching golf,
No,
right? It's
not
like
at all.
it's already the most sought after demographic and from a household income perspective or from a kind of hey, we want to reach these people with disposable income, that sort of thing. Like that's not changing. It's just a matter of all right, cool. Like we need to define what our product even is.
All right. So, from the fans' perspective, again, I'd say I'm a fan of golf, and the big thing that really annoys me, and the reason I can't get into it, is the television product. I try to turn into the Ryder Cup, and I just get punched in the face over and over again with the same fucking Colin Morikawa, their alligator commercial. Look, I like YouTube. I got teenagers who like YouTube. I want to turn on and see, like, I don't know, the guys from Good on the thing. I want to see, like, Bob Does Sports playing in a tournament. What's realistic from your perspective about how the TV product can improve? Is it involving these YouTubers? Is it putting more than just sort of an ear pod in someone's ears? How can the TV product get better?
First thing they can do, if you are a sponsor of one of these 14 to 16 big ass events, you get commercial free last hour of coverage on Saturday and Sunday. And you get your logo on the screen at all times during that. You can even have your CEO interview. You sponsor a player in the field, we'll do a walk and talk with them. Whatever. Just show us the golf. That feels like maybe step one.
Yeah, I would build on that, just creative ways of supplementing the advertising income. Like I feel like those units exist in order again to like derive some, or to like arrive at like a number, like a value number to sell to these title sponsors, right? Like they say
And that the agencies will sign off on.
right,
Right.
like you're gonna, if you sponsor this tournament, it means you're gonna get X number of TV units. That's how we, that times this, that's how we added up to this title sponsorship number. I don't even think that like sponsors would push back on having less of those commercials in there.
No.
Most of them, like we've said this 1,000 times, there are so many awful, like somebody from PGA Tour tell me why this couldn't be changed tomorrow. There are so many awful in-house ads for the golf that I'm already watching. Like if you gave a shit about like fixing things, and if you had a number one priority, for instance, if that priority was like improving the telecast, as I would say that it should be, like how does that stuff not go away tomorrow with just a little bit of elbow grease and some creativity and like a couple meetings, like figure
Which
that
that's
out.
that's part of it
Contract.
is like we've been talking
Yeah.
about this shit for
Can't do it.
7, 8 years. We're on the second media
Can't
deal
do it.
from when we started this. And things
Yes.
like, things are gradually, but it's like I think part of it is why are the same people being allowed to solve these issues that they've clearly said aren't important to them for the last 7 or 8 years, right? Or the last 20 years of, hey,
Contracts.
let's get some new blood in here. And I saw something this week of the PGA Tour is like owns the new broadcast trucks. So CBS, NBC, Golf Channel, they're basically like the tour's trying to take more control of the broadcast product. But again, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because you've got people that have been there for forever who think the broadcast should look a certain way. And back to the commercial stuff, like soccer. Soccer is the most watched sport in the world. There's zero commercials between for 45 minutes to 50 minutes in the first half. And then there's halftime, and there's some shoulder programming, there's a pregame, and there's a postgame, and there's some commercials during halftime. But otherwise, you have boards up on the outside of the pitch. You've got a sponsor logo on on screen for a lot of it, and then you've got sponsorships on the jerseys. Cool. Well, with golf, we have the players getting sponsored. We have why can't we incorporate some of that? Like, soccer clearly seems to be pretty fucking profitable for NBC and like for some of these same partners to televise, and yet like it's not it's not laden with 24 minutes of commercials an hour, right?
I think quick. I don't know if that was rhetorical, but my retort would
Yeah.
be two big
Golf's
differences.
expensive
Golf
to-
is expensive as fuck to telecast, and
Yeah.
that's like we're not big meanies. Like, we understand that is the case, and if I could make it cheaper, I would. But
But
it
you
is
know
what
what,
it is,
DJ?
and
What
like
you know
you
what we
guys
can
signed
do
up
to
for
make
it.
it cheaper is not televised wall-to-wall coverage from like the
Yes.
20 events that don't matter as much. Focus your product, focus the resources and everything on the 14 to 16 or 20 that we're saying do.
100%. And two would be the difference between soccer players and golfers is that one are, a set of independent contractors who sell their own sponsorships, who are not out there wearing jerseys, which are able to be sold to sponsors and all of that. So like there is a big difference between like they're only able to do so much with the players and like the quote unquote uniforms that they do, that they lose out revenue there. But like the billboards on the golf course, I mean, you guys watch a lot of DP World Tour, they have billboards everywhere. Like, does that ever bother you when they're
Not one
hitting over a
bit.
billboard on a par three? Like, who gives
The
a
only
shit,
time it
you know?
bothers me is when is when there's backstopping,
Of
and
course.
Yeah.
that's not as big of an issue on the DP World
Thank you.
Tour as it is on
Yeah.
the PGA Tour.
Well, and there's also watching baseball too. There's like the way they do playing through, their version of playing through, and a lot of them is like a quick 15-second cut in between pitches, right? And then it's a tight time period, but like there's plenty of time in a golf broadcast for a quick advertisement that's not going to lose your attention. But if I'm a PGA Tour advertiser and I have the third commercial in a 6 commercial block of break from the action, nobody is seeing that. One, it's a repeat commercial because they sell these things in massive blocks. The sponsors don't even want them anymore, but they've bought this big package that, that's one of the things that comes with it is your commercial is going to be shown this time. It's all run by people that just want to win the PDF and win the slideshow deck and show the engagement numbers and all this stuff that's so fucked and broken that like gets me really worked up. But like, again, we're not talking no commercials. We're talking about trimming house ads for NBC, CBS, house ads for PGA Tour, and doing less cut-ins for like the sponsors of the events and quick, like staying on screen. My eyes are still on there and getting you broadcast value for your product, whatever it could be. A read from somebody. It could be, I've seen images where you reduce, the screen becomes almost 75% of it. And the outer edges are clearly the branding from State Farm or something like that. And, you can have an audio message in there quickly, but like you're not losing attention from the event. You do those like 3 things and you go from 18 minutes down to, I don't know, 12 or 10 per hour. That's an entirely different product. And
it makes the actual advertising inventory more valuable too.
Totally.
Because then, all right, let's say more people are watching it and there's less of it. Cool. That's a supply and demand thing. And I think like Solly, on your thing with like the live cut-ins as well, of like, make those additive, right? Like I think the other thing that kills me about the TV product KVV is when they try to when they treat the audience like we're fucking idiots. And it's like, oh, you know what? He gets 600 FedEx Cup points with this. Like, no, dipshit, he gets to go to the Masters. Or, like he just won $2 million and he's got his card locked up. And it's like, what even is a PGA Tour card? Right?
It's a whole other thing. Truly,
It's a whole
like
other
that.
podcast.
Yeah, that is a whole other podcast. So I was trying to think of like an 8-minute song, like picture like Stairway to Heaven or something. Like even going from 18 to 10. Imagine once an hour you have to take a break and just listen to Stairway to Heaven. Once an hour
For 4 hours.
for 4 hours. You have to just keep doing it. Like that's Stairway to Heaven's. Led Zeppelin's great. Like
But
now
it would be like a
replace that with
Stairway to
Kirk.
Heaven was like a Carly Rae Jepsen song. 12 minutes long
for
for
like
16 minutes
workplace,
long.
for
Yeah.
workplace
Mm.
solutions.
I think we've come up with some suggestions that are helpful for the the television product. I would also
Ads are necessary,
Yeah.
and
they
we
are.
don't mind like that's the thing. It's like, oh well, like you guys have fucking commercials on your podcast. You have ads. Yeah, we have like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes max for an hour on our most
2 minutes
commercial.
max.
Yeah, 2 minutes max per hour
One commercial
on
per
our.
30 minutes on average for the year, and we beat that policy.
And it's like,
Yes.
all right, cool,
Excuse me now while we break for an interview with Neil Schuster. This is a 10-minute interview about how the business is going.
And we're
Uh,
not idiots to say like they should follow our policy. Like it's a totally different. Like and again, but it's
like we're
all go. It's
capitalists.
like more of these things that you got to unpack. Like when you overpay for the product, and when NBC is and Comcast are going to treat Golf Channel and golf in general just like a total line item, and just look at the profit and loss on that. It's going to be nothing but cuts, 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 and it's going to look like it does. Like it's just the part that's really discouraging.
So the reason I think this is important too, because I know we're wading into bitchy territory here. The reason for that is everything we said at the beginning of the pod, which is like there has to be one central pillar like product that we're gearing up towards. And right now it's the thing that we like can't stop bitching about. And that's what is so frustrating to me. And I don't know if maybe this moves us into the next section, but Tron, we were talking about it the other day, and it's like the tour has 800 simultaneous problems right now. Everybody's mad at everybody. The broadcast stinks, the setups stink, the golf courses stink. There's like so many issues. And if you told me to like write down like what's the number one thing the tour is focused on solving, I would have absolutely no idea, because it seems like they're trying to solve 30 things at once, which just seems like it's like irritating everybody, very much including like the fans.
And the
And
players don't even want to watch their own tournaments. They're like,
that's kind of where I'm at,
this
is like
sucks.
if you
except for
could
John Rahm,
at
he'll watch
least
it.
at least just identify like, okay, what's the main problem, what's the main irritant like that we're trying to solve. And maybe that's just impossible right now, because considering kind of the hostile environment, but even before all this popped off, I wouldn't know what the number one thing was that they're trying to fix. Like I
But even for players, like, all right, like what's the product for players? The product maybe is like, hey, they want to play in the best possible atmospheres in front of big crowds for big purses at the best courses that are in the best condition, the best time of the year, right? Like, and then all of that doesn't seem to be in conflict with what we're after from a TV product
right.
perspective,
Yeah.
because that stuff improves the TV product. All of that stuff improves, all right, cool. We want to avoid, fall, like we want to avoid, football in the fall. Cool. Maybe that's when some of the international stuff is, or, hey, like it's like, why are we going to Pebble in February? Right. Like all that stuff is just like that affects the TV product too, because it's, it doesn't look as good. The course doesn't present as well, all that stuff.
And
And
I
it's
think what's
worth
tough,
pointing out that TV product has improved massively on the
yeah,
CBS
Yeah.
side, at least in the last 8 years. Really, I mean, tremendously, it really has.
I think what's interesting, TC, about that, like the best players, the best courses, the best time slots, like all that stuff makes a ton of sense. I think everybody would sign up for that. And the next question is like, okay, well, how do you pay for it? And that's where we circle back to, okay, well, it's probably not great that Farmers is leaving. Probably not great
Yeah.
that Wells Fargo's leaving. Probably not great that, a lot of these title sponsors are just becoming a much tougher sell. That again is back to the original conflict.
Which is to say, like, if you so a problem has been, again, back to the mission statement. It's basically a lot of short term stuff of like playing opportunities, money now, can't turn that down, blah blah blah. If we're zooming out to say like, okay, well, if there was like in theory an investor in this league or tour, in theory, that may be able to
The
help you come up
investor.
with a long term
That's
plan,
how you pay for it.
a
Yeah.
liquid investor here that would come in and maybe fund some of the short-term obligations of this with a better long-term vision to help grow the top of the bucket. Like that's where things start to get interesting in terms of,
Yeah.
again, if there's Piff who's got some dumb money and, SSG that I would not classify as dumb money, they're going to want to return in some capacity on whatever the hell
I
PGA
don't know.
Tour
You've
Enterprises
seen the
is.
Mets payroll. we can
True.
we can debate that.
Um,
Also, though, like I mean, some of it too, Solly, is like even the TV partners that have signed up for this. Like we're in what, like the second or third year of the new TV deal, and NBC's been bitching about it since the day they signed it. Like, then don't fucking sign it, guys. Like, and like that's the thing too. It's like you can't cry poor on something that we're in like year 2 of. It's crazy where, or like, hey, if this is a loss leader, then treat it like a loss leader because it's a prestige thing and it's making
For
all
sure.
your other
Yep.
properties that much more valuable instead of just it's like you're doing the worst of both worlds where you're making it unwatchable for the Ryder Cup and you're choking it off for future fans that hey, there's no on ramp anymore. Like nobody's going to want to watch this. And so all you're doing is diminishing the value even more of what this thing looks like in 26, 27, 2030 of, like you're shooting yourself in the foot just because, you're on a quarterly reporting structure to Wall Street with
Mm.
All
Comcast.
right. All right. I can't let TC keep turning the bitchiness dial up and looking at the
Sorry.
audience and seeing but but I do want to pivot back to Solly and Tron. I want you to sort of tackle this one. All right. I'm a fan. I like to see birdies. Like birdies sort of seem like really cool. Give me an argument why, like, what setup should we be trying to have here? What's my ideal golf tournament going forward, and why does a certain setup make things more appealing?
KVV, I'm chomping at the bit for this one, and I'll toss it over to
Oh,
Solly after this.
okay.
Context matters. If everybody's making birdies, birdies don't mean anything, right? Like, all right, why? All right, if birdies are sick, then why is the event at TPC Craig Ranch not the most watched event on the PGA Tour schedule? Right? Like
It's distance, TC. People
it's
want to see the ball
Yeah.
go
all
far.
right.
That's what they
All
want.
right, cool. Everybody, 340 yard. Cool. That means we can't go to
We should play
this
only in
venue
Colorado.
or
We should play
or
only in
that venue.
Colorado if distance sells. Why is every event not in
Yeah.
Colorado?
Why do we not have
God.
something in Salt Lake City? Why?
The
Yeah.
Sports
We don't
Illustrated
have.
rankings are going to be a mess if we play every event in Colorado. It's going to be tough.
But all right. So on that front too, like, all right, if everybody's hitting a 330-yard drive, then does a 330-yard drive all right, who's the longest players? All they're doing is actually washing out the context and
Mhm.
and diminishing any context versus making it so, hey, you know what, the longest player, like that's actually really impressive. Or this guy's, and I think all it's done is raise parity as well. It's made it harder for the truly dominant and best players to showcase their dominance and skill. And I think it's actually hurt the product in the macro sense of there's less stars, there's less recognizable, there's less dominance, right?
So, Solly, can I make the setups harder in a way that is able to challenge players in the modern game?
So I think it's like two different paths we have to go down with this, right? And I've kind of come around a little bit on this in terms of like if we're on the current path we're on, which is ball going forever, not spinning and whatnot. I'm as much as I'm a fan of wide, width and angles and wide fairways and kind of the creativity that comes with that. I don't know if that's the best product for this high level of technology. Like I've kind of come around on like maybe there should be some rough in some of these. Like there should be some. Now it's really hard to do that thoughtfully. Like I think Bay Hill does not do that thoughtfully. I think a lot of courses on the PGA Tour definitely do not do that thoughtfully. But at the same time, like some more consequence for shots that have gone offline and some penalties are required in some way. Now, a separate path would be a golf ball that does not go nearly this far, which I am a huge fan of. A driver heads that punish off center misses way more. So the fact that like a wider fairway would mean a lot more there. If a heel shot is going to go in the rough, you can have more width in the fairways. As it stands now, it doesn't make sense for 330-yard drives to try to land in 20-yard wide gaps. Just like the scale is just the whole thing is messed up. That's a whole another separate podcast, right?
Yeah.
But it's all to say like setting up this era, as TC has said, is automatically you just literally describe the equipment. It is going to bring more players closer together. We have done a bunch of deep dives, KBV, of looking into past periods of golf, and like there's a reason why Jack Nicklaus could separate so much from the field in that time period, because that man wore out the center of the club face. He wore it out. He was the best at hitting that, and like now it's just natural. Like as closer and closer and closer as we get to perfect golf, there's no such thing, but the closer we get to it, with all of the workouts, all the TrackMan, all the foresight, all the everything, all the technology, and all of it heading towards one thing, naturally, just guys it's going to be harder to separate. Like that's inarguable. It's not whether
Piece
you
of shit putting contest.
wherever you stand on the distance debate, it's not arguable that it brings people closer together. Like that is the one thing that is I will not accept any argument on. So all that's to say, like the chances of having star power, like TC said, are way less in this era, and you need it. Like, you need it in golf. There's a reason what we love the duels, the Watson versus Nicholas, the the Tiger and Phil, the area that they were in, they just clearly separated from that. VJ was a total star. Ernie Els was a total star. And now we're just kind of seeing this time period. We're like, yeah, maybe Morikawa only gets 2 majors. We maybe thought he was Tom Watson. Maybe TC said he was
Thought he
going to
was
win
gonna
a
get
major.
8.
Yeah. Maybe he only wins 2. Like, that is an issue in golf, right? If you want the best, like, I think if you were going to think about more people tuning in and more excitement for it, it is like watching career progression like we saw from Phil. We have a couple of those guys in this era, but at the same time, like, it is just guys are kind of put more in a blender with the way that current setups are. And also, and again, there's so many tentacles to this, but it's like you're kind of choosing from your own, this little lot of golf courses that you can even go to begin with, and they're not the most interesting golf courses. So people that complain that is there a golf course you do like? It's like, yeah, of the ones the pro golf game chooses, not that many. Like, there's not that many. There's way better ones out there that don't make sense to go to with the current technology. It's a very iterative whole thing. Kind of stuff we've talked about for a long period of time. And I don't even remember what your original question was, other than like, the interest all come, like, Augusta's brilliant at, like, the consequence is very easy to understand of the certain shots of missing there. Is like, you don't even need to be a hardcore fan to be like, oh God, that is trouble over there, or that's an incredible shot. And a lot more PGA Tour courses, that consequence is not really there to the same extent.
All right, TC.
Yeah.
Let's say that since we're going to make this a global product and we're focusing on the television aspect of this stuff, and we know that the setups need to get better, could I, in theory, create a few more tournaments a year that I could bring 30, 40 guys to Seminole, to Pacific Dunes, to Pine Valley, to what places could I go that would make this kind of golf compelling? Are there other golf courses out there that are on the radar that I couldn't convince? I don't need to bring in 25,000 fans every day. Maybe I bring in 2,000 fans, but I'm broadcasting this around the world. Where are some places that we could go that would make this worthwhile?
Yeah, well, you know what, KV, it's funny you mentioned that, because the PGA Tour has this entire network of courses that were supposedly purpose built to host professional golf tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
That seemingly, like, don't promote any of the things that we want to see out of a professional golf tournament. And
Apart from Sawgrass, I would say.
with the exception of like a Sawgrass or
Even River
like,
Highlands, kind of.
The problem is they built
that
them all
was-
in the 90s, and then the technology blew up because they didn't regulate it. Like,
Totally.
Avid, like,
Well,
all
and-
these courses
yeah.
got outdated so fast.
But yeah, I think it's, but it comes down to priorities, right? Of, all right, how many guys are in the field? How many, what's the corporate footprint? Because some of it's not even distance related. Some
Yep.
of it's just, hey, this is too small of a piece of property and we can't put corporate hospitality up on it. But if you get it back to, all right, the TV product is the thing, and we can, we can have fans here. There's not going to be 100,000 fans. There could be 10,000 fans. I think there's something there. But I think the other thing too is finding places that have volatility, right? If there's nothing worse in TV product than I think with the equipment, making it to where off center hits aren't penalized, and knowing that, all right, down the stretch of a tournament there's not a lot of volatility, or when guys are like knowing what, like Sully said, consequences, knowing what a good shot is and a great shot is, of, hey, when I think, personally speaking, I think you could have cut the rough, or cut the collar down on 17 or on the right side of 16 last week at Sawgrass, and made it a lot more, kind of a lot stronger contrast between what a bad shot is and what a good shot is. Same with that stripper rough at TPC River Highlands, Solly. I mean, it's one of those things of, like, if there's more volatility and there's more, oh man, this guy's hanging on for dear life down the stretch of a PGA Tour event, like, man, I think more people are going to watch that, instead of it just being, all right, this guy's got a 3-shot lead, and we're kind of trundling towards a relatively bland finish. And I think, yeah, so that comes down to, and I think the other thing is, like, the ball on the ground. Like, there's nothing more exciting on watching golf when the ball is, like, the players do not have control of the ball when it's on the ground. They're in complete control when it's in the air. And there's drama, there's suspense, there's that hold your breath moment at the best golf tournaments. That's why Augusta's so great, because the ball is on those greens and rolling for so long, or why everybody loves watching the Open Championship.
Yep.
Or like, and there's something there. And so I feel like hey, what are these like? Let's distill this down to what are the best ingredients that make really good TV golf tournaments? What make those like what set those apart? And then try to lean into those kind of simple, basic ingredients and then work our way back out from there.
Well said. Well said. DJ, you know what a big Phil Mickelson guy I am. He and I have been saying for a couple of years, boy, what would be sick is if we had a Ryder Cup style event between the Live guys and the PGA Tour guys. I mean, we know, as Phil and I will say, the Live guys would just dominate. They would cry. It would make the other guys cry. Why can't we have something like this? Is this a realistic possibility? Let's just roll our 12 out there and play for $1 billion and just make it the Super Bowl of golf.
So a couple things. One, I know this is kind of a joke, but sincerely, that would be my favorite event of the year. I can't tell you how quickly I would sign up to watch every shot of that event, and bring it on. Truly, I'm so in on that idea, and I think like the
Really?
entire golf world. Yes, truly. Like I don't think anybody
Be
would
sick.
ever do it. Like I don't know why.
You would be into it, Sully. You would fucking
Why
love
Well,
it.
would
I
Rory and Scotty
macro.
and Speed?
I don't know if I would want to further exacerbate the golf wars, right? I don't think it's like has
Sure.
longevity. Unless it's just
I
not
think what it
different
would do is,
enough.
I mean, it would like completely normalize live, and it would
Be a lot
it would
better than President's Cup.
it would raise the floor of live. But yeah, like having a team that you like root for and a team you root against, like I think would be like electric. I think the why it obviously will not happen is because golf, again, we kind of touched on this, but is such a different sport where now you have like the players actually becoming stakeholders and actual like equity holders in their sport. Like what upside is there for Rory or Scotty or Spieth or any of these guys to like sign up for an event like this? But again, like do I think that is a dramatic difference that would bring in a bunch of casual fans even if it's like a short-term bump? Like yeah, hell yeah, I do.
Well, and like there's revenue associated with that
For
too.
sure.
Like if he
Having
could
talked to Rory about this whole stuff recently, he would actually, I think, be like, you know what? As much as this sucks to swallow my ego and like make these people on an equal playing field, if we're trying to make this a better product that actually like rises the tide to lift all boats, then maybe I should suck it up and do this. Like he doesn't like want to play golf again with Phil and Bryson and people, but like I think he has a good sense of like that's what's best for the products that the fans want. Like we have to swallow our egos a little bit. That's where I think that he does differentiate a little bit from some of his peers who are like, man, F those guys. Like I think there's a lot of people who'd be like, I'm never stepping on a same playing field as them to equal them. I don't think Rory is actually one of those.
I think
So
that's
I think you
different
got
than
something.
what I think that's different than what the question is, though. I don't think again a live versus PGA Tour Cup or whatever is only going to further like cement this like split squad thing. Whereas Rory is kind of like we got to get the golf world back together, and I'm fine to go play next to these guys because that's what's going to serve golf fans.
but
Unless like
seemingly it doesn't seem like we're any closer to doing that. So
That's
if
where I'm at.
it
Yeah.
and it's like, cool, then you know what? Like, let's make the most of it. And I mean, shit, I'd love to talk about this on the Sunday pod this week of like, cool, like if you're live, which 12 guys are you sending out there? Like, it's fascinating. And who are you
Amazing.
sending from the PGA tour? And like, who's gonna get too amped or who's gonna be
Greg
too
Norman having to make
hateful?
those calls. I'm
It's
sorry,
so
we're
sick.
not bringing you Martin Keimer.
So
I'm sorry, G-Mag.
if you're telling me like you could wake up on a Sunday morning and you have Taylor Gooch versus Scotty Scheffler as like the leadoff match of like deciding this event, like you wouldn't be just glued to that event. I straight up do not believe you.
That'd be better than the Ryder Cup.
I guess I'd have to think about that more. All they are is just dudes that picked like two different. If one thing is live is established is like we have no idea how these teams came
And,
together, right?
and
And
that's
like
why they definitely should not do it, by the way. It's
right,
just like because it's just shooting themselves repeatedly in the foot. But would I watch it as a fan? Yes, I would. That's what I'm trying to say.
that's
All
what
right. So what so I think you got one more thing, but maybe it's part of this. What element of team golf should play a role in whatever we have next? Because I think it's pretty clear that Yasser, for whatever reason, feels like there should be team golf going forward. Liv has sort of staked their we're different on this. How do we do that going forward? Because as a fan, I don't care about Liv maybe, but I do like the idea of like a Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas team taking on, a John Rahm, Joaquin Neiman team on a lazy Saturday morning from Wentworth or something. Let's say, well, what element of that should be part of it?
I'm back and forth on this because I was all in on the PGL. I had to think about what is actually the acronym was. It's been so long on it, but the plan sounded super interesting because honestly, PGA Tour golf had gotten super stale and it just needed a shakeup of some kind. And there's a lot of really good ideas there. And yet, since then, I think I think one thing I've maybe undersold about that was the fact like the majors are going to be 72 holes of stroke play, and like that is the peak format of golf, right? Now, do I think that there needs to be 47 events mimicking that? No, I do not. But like, there's something to golf being an individual sport, and 72 holes of stroke play is like the majority of what's going to make this up. Now, I do like the PGA Tour is now January through August, and the fall is kind of like figuring out eligibility and all that. And like, do I think that there's space for the top 48 guys to make 4-man teams and play in that time period? And as long as you can explain to me how these teams are actually coming together, as long as there's a fucking draft, there has to be a draft. Like there has to be some qualification for this league. If you want like people to actually care about this, it cannot be drawn up on the back of a napkin with clip art and things like cliques. I'm sorry, TC, but like you just can't do that.
How dare you disrespect the trade market that's going on to live right now, the hot trade market.
And it has to have everyone. It's just not gonna. It has to. So like I think there's something to it. I just can't. I don't think there's enough. You can't have all these big PGA Tour events or whatever Super Golf League events that we're talking about, all the majors and Ryder Cup, and intertwine team stuff within all that in the same schedule. That is where things just don't work, in my opinion. So, perfect world. It doesn't sound like they're that close to this, but 4-round stroke play events take place January through August, and team stuff happens in the fall. You can get creative on what night of the week it is. It doesn't have to be Sunday. It doesn't have to be 4 rounds. It doesn't have, is it, JT's 4-man team plays Rom's 4-man team on a Wednesday afternoon on the West Coast, which is somewhat prime time on the East. And it's a one-day thing. It's matches, one night, and there's a winner and a loser total for that week. And like, you have a win, one win, one loss out of it instead of points and all that. Is there something there? I think there is. I just, they're so far away from getting that figured out. And that doesn't seem to be the way that they're kind of picturing this.
It just seems like there's so much low hanging fruit too. Like there's like you said, Sally, like TV windows. All right, cool. Like you want to boost viewership? Cool. Get more prime time shit going on. Or, there's like use time zones to your advantage. Or we always hear him bitch about like, oh, you know what? Like there's no sponsors down in Australia. Well, you know what? Like there's a fucking Formula One race there every year. Like, and leverage your big ass sponsors instead of getting them to sponsor one event. No, sponsor like they have Rolex and Pirelli and Aramco and DHL and Heineken. It's like then have, you know, separate them out and hey, sponsor this 15 event series, and you don't have to have one sponsor per event.
All right, guys, welcome to the lightning round. I think this is what's going to bring the pod to a close here. We're just going to kind of go rapid fire around here. We're going to talk about what we think the priorities are. What if you were commissioner for a day and you were sort of building out your own league, essentially? What would you choose to improve things? DJ, you've been so patient and so thoughtful throughout this here. I'm going to go ahead and just make the executive decision to give you the first pick. If you had the Dumbledore-esque power to wave your wand, what would be the first thing you'd have to do?
It's a thorny one, lots of problems, but I don't know how you could take anything else with the number 1 draft pick other than bringing all the players back together. I think that is my number 1 pick. Absolutely has to happen, non-negotiable.
Solly, I'm going to go to second pick to you. We got the players back together now. What are we doing next?
Well, the more people are going to be interested in the product because the players are back together, which means we're going to modernize the way we do commercials and present the entertainment aspect of our sport, including modernizing our media rights, meaning you're not going to put a stranglehold on people on social media that want to use your content for promotional purposes. Doing things like Major League Baseball has done, where you can't open up your phone without seeing a Major League Baseball highlight. That should be that way for golf. We can take 18 minutes commercials down to 10 through some creativity and cutting out some stuff and keeping people drawn into the product through that lens.
TC, going to you. We've got a better product now. We've got all the players back together. What's next?
I think it's where and when we play. I think it's trimming out some of the shittier venues. I think it's going to the best venues at the right times. I think it's rethinking the playoff structure that doesn't make it so stupid right now. All right, then what's the regular season if we have a playoffs? Da 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 da. Da. I think it's just rethinking the schedule and making it easier to digest and like, hey, what do these tournaments mean?
All right, this isn't the sexiest pick on my end. This is kind of like picking an offensive tackle in the first round, but I'm going to go with pace of play. I want to establish a shot clock.
Fuck
We're
yeah.
going to you have to get over the ball and hit your shot. Sorry, Solly. I know that pace of play is, not your favorite topic, but we are going to get these products moving. I don't want to linger as much. We are getting, you know what? We're going to enforce penalties. You're going to learn. I don't care if it messes with your process. You're going to learn to hit the ball quickly.
God, KVV, I wish I would have had a chance to trade up for that because that was going to be my next round draft pick. Was just enforce the fucking rules, guys. Like, people want to see, you want context, you want competition, you want it to mean something. Cool, enforce the rules. Like, hey, if the rule says you got to hit a shot in 45 seconds, you got to hit a shot in 45 seconds. Hire more rules officials, whatever that takes. I think KVV, there should be a flop wall. Friend of ours sent this over where, all right, if you want to take TIO relief.
Wait, is this a
from,
supplemental?
Are you a
pick for
draft? Yeah,
Sure.
where did this?
yeah,
what happened here?
I got some compensatory selection. Uh,
Thank you for all you've done. for the
Competitive
game,
balance
PC.
tax.
yeah. Where, I feel like, all right, you want to take a TIO relief? Cool. It's going to be in the shittiest, longest rough possible, kind of like what the British Open does now. Or there's a flop wall where, all right, cool, you can drop it there, but you have to flop it over this
All right, let's
wall.
pick our battles, guys. We got to
That's
pick our
what-
battles.
That was going to be my pick. And
All right,
The
Deej,
flop
I'm
wall.
sorry flop walls off the board, but you're back on the board.
Well,
Where
you know
do
what?
go from here?
I'm gonna zoom in on one of TC's picks. I'm just gonna add a little more specificity. We were talking about venues and times of year and stuff. I'm gonna specifically say move the Tour Championship to Pebble Beach. I think Pebble Beach is more, the way I wrote it in my original written piece that didn't end up getting published was like, Pebble Beach is more famous than any of the players on the PGA Tour. Straight up. That is the reason you tune in. And why the fuck are we going there in February when we know the weather's going to be awful? It's kind of a bygone era of this big erector set that the PGA Tour has become, where it's just been kind of slowly built on and bolted on and bolted on and bolted on, and it's like a part pro-am, part big huge entertainment product, part TV thing, part local thing. It doesn't make any sense anymore. And having it in September with the 30 best players in the world with perfect weather on the West Coast before football starts is like, dude, tune me into that. That is a true season ending like jewel, I think.
All right, Solly, you're on the board again. Some good things have been picked already, but there's still a lot of good players available to build a team.
Clearly separate what the golf that matters versus the golf that doesn't, and obviously frame that in a different way. But like Formula One has 23 events. You earn points in those. That is the championship race is that. And it is not it is not tennis. It is like, these are the 20 events that are for the title of the Super Golf League, PGA Tour, whatever you want to call it. That is these events. It will not be the John Deere. Like, that is to try to qualify. Those are all qualifying ways. Those are golf tournaments that are going to pay out money, and you can qualify through those for this upper league. But this is the golf that counts. If Jordan Spieth goes down and plays the John Deere, no points for that in the overall championship race, whatever that is. This is the golf that counts. This is easy to understand. Sponsors pay more for this one. The rest is something different.
Solly, on that note, what I've like been circling in my head is this idea that we would ever have somebody like having like a player win like a shitty event on the PGA Tour is the worst possible thing for your product you could have, right? Where it is always, people always throw out the Eric Cole thing at the Honda, the Cognizant, whatever.
Country music sensation.
Like, man, what an amazing story that was, to like, now he played his way in, he just totally changed his life. Like what I was talking about with the core fans that will watch tournaments every week, like interlace those, zipper those, have a big one, an off one, a big one, an off one. Like, the same people are going to watch all those tournaments. And it just seems like having very clear, like, these are the life-changing events, and then these are the like events you play after your life has been changed, is like the clearest line of delineation. Could not be more with you.
All right, TC, your fan base is getting restless. They want you to throw out a real,
They hate
interesting
the
pick
flop ball
here.
pick.
Yeah,
They
they
think
a
you
lot
reached.
booing from the back.
You traded
I'm
up
not
for
sure.
that. I think you lost
You
your draft
reached
pick for
on
this
flop
round.
ball. That was
Oh,
going to be
oh,
there.
wow.
that was a future. That was a future year pick plus some salary cap considerations, an expiring contract, and I'm using my bird rights as well. I'm gonna go. You know what? I was gonna go with course setup and stuff, but we're not going that direction. Mel Kiper thought we were gonna do that. We're gonna go with something that DJ has come up with: mule buyouts.
Oh,
Mm.
So, listen, we'll take a guy, David Skins. Don't want to shit on him, or Zach Johnson, even, right? Of like, hey, like, all right, Zach Johnson, like, let's just clarify who has their PGA Tour card, who doesn't. And at some point, like, all right, like Zach Johnson, cool. Like, you've been very well compensated for the cuts that you've made, and like the reason that you have this exemption is because of you've made more money than anybody except for the top 30 guys in the history of the PGA Tour. But that is basically just, it's not adjusted for inflation. It just means the top 30 most lucrative players of the last 15, 20 years, basically.
Sure.
But let's trim it down. Let's get it back to, all right, if you're going to be a, competitive, hey, this is a meritocracy and this is dog eat dog, then you know what? Like, relegation should means cool. You get relegated, you got to play your way back in, right? Let's clean up the sponsor exemptions. Let's clean up. There shouldn't be. There's what, 30 guys coming off the Corn Ferry Tour this year, where half of them can't get into fucking events, even.
Sure.
And it's
You
like, all
don't.
right, there's too many things, and like, you know what? Part of the thing to get to reduce the fat, to trim the herd, to cull the herd is mule buyouts, where DJ was like, you know what, David Skin's cool. Like, we will give you $950,000 if you just walk away. You can go play the events that Sally said that don't matter, but we're
You're
good on
no
the
longer
events that do
eligible.
matter. Unless you qualify your way in and you're one of the
You
top
don't
80
you
players.
don't see like Kendrick Perkins still getting to play NBA games, TC, or like Tracy McGrady rolling balls out there.
Yeah,
Or,
it's like, all right, like
those
T-Mac.
guys are out of the league when they're out of the league.
Yeah, T-Mac, you made $400 million playing basketball. You get to
one
be
more
on a
year.
roster this year because you made so much money playing basketball. Like, get the fuck out. It's outrageous.
All right. Mel Kiper loves this pick. Well done there. I can't believe this is still on the board, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. I'm going to take a lot of this SGS money, maybe some of the Yasser money. Don't know yet how would you feel about this. And I am going to buy the Ryder Cup and the PGA of America. I am going to make that part of whatever the product is going forward. Now we control one of the majors. We know the stakes are really big. We know exactly that we are part of the conversation of history. And we can decide like what Ryder Cup venue it's going to go to and all that stuff. We are going to be part of that future.
I would actually like to write a think piece for The Athletic about why you owning that property is fucking horrible for the league. Because I'm
That's kinda
very
where I'm at.
worried that that's going to happen. That exact scenario is like,
No.
with all this money, they're going to start buying up the things that do matter and the things that we do really
Or do a
love.
licensing deal and
And
basically bring it.
Look, maybe
Yeah.
this is like giving Aaron Rodgers a big contract late in his career. Like there's some risks involved, but maybe,
I don't know how much I love the unity of that idea. I think I'd just rather the
right.
guys make less money.
I'd say that, like, if we can get there with, here's how we're going to make you guys a shitload more money, and it's through a bunch of this other stuff that isn't straight commercial loads, and over here is going to be this, but like in exchange for this, we have to take commercials out and make this product more entertaining by doing all these other things. Like, it's going to be a little bit more indirect way, but your equity in this thing is going to grow when we buy up Pebble Beach and all this stuff, all of this. But here's what you have to do. You have to dance for us in professional golf. That's best case scenario. Do I trust the people involved to nail all that stuff? Absolutely fucking not.
All right. Do we want to go one more round to round, or do we have
listen? Yeah, I think this should be like the old NBA draft where we're going like 25 rounds. And even if you have to hop off KVV, I think we keep going. Like, I'm like Mel Kiper. We're not even getting started until we get into like the fifth.
See, I think there might need to be a part 2. Maybe we need to revisit this on the Sunday pod because I know but DJ, I'll give you one more spin around if you want to go around.
Yeah, I've only got one more serious suggestion, and then we can devolve into all kinds of other shit. Piss mule buyouts is off. I thought I could get that in round 5. But I think I would take some of that SGS money SG. Is that what it is? SGS.
Yep.
Uh,
SSG.
SS. I was like, wait, no, that's shotgun
Yeah,
style. Okay.
I screwed it up. Yeah.
I would take some of that money and I would invest heavily in supplementary programming. And I think a lot of what you were saying, Tron, is like, why are we spending so much money on broadcasting all of these events exactly the same and trying to make every Thursday through Sunday look exactly the same when the events are wildly different from each other? I think a lot of that spend could be around making like, okay, I'm not going to watch Thursday of the Valspar. Spoiler alert, it's not going to happen. No offense to the Valspar, no offense to whoever takes the lead. It's just, it's not going to happen. What I would like to watch is like a player talking me through every shot of their round and breaking down how they play Innisbrook and making me smarter about Innisbrook for when I do watch on Sunday. So whatever that means, like figure out a better way to like make me a more engaged, smarter golf fan that is not just like beating me over the head with the same 72 hole gruel, eat this every day until you die type of product.
Well, listen, right now leading the Valspar is Adam Svensson and Brendan Todd. So are you sure you would just
Honestly,
rather have this?
I thought it was Wednesday. I didn't even realize it was Thursday and that the tournament was even going on. So that's, the defense rests on that
All
one.
right. Solly?
I can't believe this is still available. I'm guessing I just was checking Twitter and I just saw that this draft pick, some images were circulating of this draft pick hitting a bong.
Dude's getting high, playing high.
That's why he's falling down the draft board. But technology changes of making the golf ball not fly as far, driver head smaller, and changing the
Which
scale.
is
of
in
the
the
game.
works. And
Yeah,
they're going to fight it instead of
Exactly.
saying, "Hey, this actually makes our
Of all
shit
products
stronger."
that need this, of all tournaments that need it, it's PGA Tour events. It's going to help you build your stars a lot better. It really, really will.
I was gonna say like a tournament that has like persimmon drivers, like blade clubs. Like I would be all like, I don't know if that's a full draft pick or if it's part of this, but like if give me one of those a year, fuck it, let's do it.
That might be an undrafted free agent.
Might be. It's true.
TC, do you have a clip to empty? I do want to. We don't need a big expounding on each one, but I would love to hear some others that were on your board.
Yeah, I would say buy Data Golf.
That's a good one.
I think just bring that into the ecosystem. Have like why is there not like Kyle Porter talks about this all the time? Like, why is there not like a golfreference.com? Like, can we get a back end database that fucking works? I would say, again, going back to this course setup stuff, like there's no reason that like set a good example. There's no reason why like Sawgrass needs to like you need to dump billions of gallons of water on that place to make it look a little bit greener. Like that's setting a really shitty example and like the best playing surface right now is that semi-dormant, Bermuda that they could make look really strong. They could overseed parts of it or whatever and have some contrast out there. That would be one of them. Obviously connecting the intracoastal out there. You want a banger of an atmosphere. I would say, have like hosting a women's event out there, hosting an LPGA Tour event, or hosting fix the President's Cup. Like it sucks. It's like, all right, cool. Like, so the US is going to play the best players from the world, but outside of Europe and the UK,
outside of live.
and then we're going to go to Royal Montreal to play it. And, it's like a perfect example of like venues mattering, right? Like Royal Melbourne, like when they went there, cool. Like, and when you separate out, all right, like if the President's Cup doesn't have a main sponsor, right? It's if more people are watching that, then it kind of pays for itself there. I got all sorts of stuff of just I think getting like certain events, cool. Get like instant replay in the booth. Like what we're gonna go to the Tony Zerpoli in the booth here and talk through this. They've kind of already done it with Deuce Bobick a little bit, but let's take that to the next level. Let's have back to the players from last week. Let's have like let's treat it seriously to where it's not like Rory and Victor arguing about where a ball crossed. Let's have a camera in certain spots if you know that that's going to be an issue certain weeks on certain holes.
It might be good for content though, I gotta say, with the arguing.
Yeah, I think some of it is like, hey, they've listened on some of the social stuff. They did a couple funny memes last week, or hey, like why can't I watch a cut up of dudes rounds? Similar to what you were saying with MLB, Solly, where like, hey, just you guys can put it out and sell advertising against it, but give me a 3-minute summary of all the shots that so and so hit today, you know?
Why can't like they have an app that's good as the Masters app? Obviously, it's a little different, but like pour some real resources. Basically, go to IBM and be like, how do we get the best possible version of what we can do on a week-to-week basis with this technology that you guys have? Because everybody loves it on the day that you can download the Masters app. Nobody's like, oh yeah, the PGA Tour's updating their app. It's so sick.
Which some of that is just like government's not like sexy type stuff, I think. But the thing about the app for me is like, I think it has gotten a little better with the newest edition of it. Is like,
Mhm.
it just never seems like, it always seems like they're trying to like make me like what they like, rather than like me using the app the way that I would want to use it. And the easiest example is just like, hey, I'm in a golf pool. I would love to know what Victor Hovland did at Valspar last year. And that, like,
Mhm.
finding that is like so
Yeah.
fucking difficult.
I mean, we've talked about it a bunch. Miking up players or having, hey, if you're in the final 4 groups on Sunday, you're getting mic'd up, no questions asked. Or
Yeah.
do a range walk, have somebody out there like, doing, hey, you know what? What are you working on? Da 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 da. You got it. All right. If you're gonna be a dick to the guy, that's gonna be on TV too. Like you don't have to participate, but
That's such a good idea. That would be phenomenal. Little tidbits of just like, what are you working on would be.
yeah, have Smiley do it. He's friends with all the guys.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be like Walter Cronkite fucking journalism. It can just be like, hey, like, what'd you eat for breakfast this morning? Oh man, I didn't sleep well last night. My kid woke up.
Troubling news today. It's made a double bogey on 6. We go now to Smiley Kaufman for the inside story.
Even making it easier to watch historical stuff of like, you know what? Like, all right, you want like you telling us that you have legacy, not leverage, or all this stuff. All right, cool. Like, I don't care if it was a different title sponsor. Start playing stuff on Golf Channel again. It's not just like, all right, here's the 2021 heritage. No, like show us like the 1987 heritage, and
Yeah.
and it may have been MCI or whoever was sponsoring it, but you know what? So be it. Like you're solidifying your own tournaments and your own brand and your own legacy and history and making this tournament mean something and adding additional context there.
Hell
You know what
yeah.
would be sick is like a
You're
Mystery
here.
Science Theater thing of 2 players like Max and JT sitting watching the 87 memorial and like just giving me their thoughts for an hour, like the last hour of the memorial. That would be good
They
shit.
did good stuff around the old players at Sawgrass Country Club. They had the collegiate players out there watching that, and when the year the wind blew forever, and like getting their reactions and stuff to a bunch of old highlights, and Watson and stuff playing that. It's like, dude, more of that, please. Like that is, and sounds of the game. That's my that's
Yeah.
another late round value pick of like just copy straight up the NFL. Mic up a few players, edit it down into a 10-minute video, bunch like with 5 or 6 different dudes. I've seen the team. You guys have a massive team there. You could do that. Like you could absolutely do that.
And like the more they do that stuff, the more credibility that they gain, and with both the players and the fans, and people start watching it a little bit more, and quit inundating us with just like cut out some of the clutter from some of these corporate sponsorships as well. Like don't treat us like we're stupid. Chase dollars, not dimes and nickels and pennies.
Guys, this has been super cathartic. I think we've solved all the problems for the PGA Tour enterprises. We're ready to grow the game of golf indefinitely. Thank you for indulging me and for holding this draft. I feel like this draft might have to become a frequent
Yeah,
thing
that feels
here.
like part 1.
Yeah.
I think that draft board can change frequently. I think the whole episode of a draft feels like it's in the future.
Hell yeah. Well, all right. Well, I know you guys are probably off in Scotland when people are hearing this, but I'll be a man in the ship at home again. And thank you again to everybody who tunes in and listens to us, critique the product, but also try to improve the product as we figure out what the frick the product is going forward.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Crack on.